Something replaced my neighbor's house last night. Now I'm not sure my wife is real. The last real thing I saw was my neighbor's house atomizing into light. It was 1:13 in the morning. I know because I checked my phone a second before it happened. I was standing at the edge of my lawn, nursing a hand-rolled cigarette, trying to let the quiet of the suburbs iron out the knots in my brain. A waning crescent moon hung in the sky like a silver sickle. Down the gentle slope of our street, every house was a dark, sleeping shape. All except one. The Kova house. It was the biggest one on the cul-de-sac, a hulking, modern thing of glass and steel that always seemed out of place. Tonight, it was lit up like a cruise ship. I never really knew them. A stoic older couple, maybe Eastern European. They kept to themselves, but their driveway was always full of expensive cars. Seemed like they were always hosting some get-together, a constant, low murmur of a life I wasn't part of. From my spot on the hill, I could see figures moving behind the huge plate glass windows, silhouettes drifting through warm light, glasses raised, heads tilted in conversation. I took a long drag from my cigarette, feeling a familiar pang of loneliness. I imagined the smell of rich food, the clinking of glasses, the easy laughter. And that's when it happened. A flash. Not like lightning. This was silent. It didn't come from the sky. It erupted from the very center of the house. Blinding, bone-white tendrils of light shot out in every direction, a star being born and dying in the same instant. I threw a hand over my eyes, stumbling back against a mailbox. My heart hammered against my ribs. The light was gone as quickly as it came, plunging the street back into its sleepy, yellow-lit calm. But the house wasn't the same. The guests were gone, every single one of them. The lights were still on inside, illuminating a hollow space. Empty rooms, vacant patios, barren hallways. It was like someone had scooped the life out of it, leaving only the shell. My cigarette slipped from my fingers, its orange tip dying on the damp grass. I didn't think, I just ran. Back inside my own house, I fumbled in the hall closet for my bird-watching binoculars. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get them focused. I crept back down the street, hiding behind a thick oak tree, and raised them to my eyes. The view confirmed the impossible. The house was gutted. Not just the people, but everything. The cars in the driveway vanished. The art on the walls, gone. The heavy oak dining table where I'd seen them gathered, gone. All that remained were bare walls and floors. It looked like a museum exhibit titled Empty House. For 20 minutes, I stood there, a cold sweat trickling down my back. My mind screamed at me to do something. Call the police? Run down there? Wake up my wife? I needed someone else to see it. I needed to not be alone with this. Noah was dead asleep, an eye mask pushed up on her forehead. She mumbled something incoherent when I shook her shoulder. I begged her, told her something was wrong, that she had to see this. She followed me out onto the lawn, pulling her robe tight, her breath fogging in the cool air. I pointed down the hill, my voice trembling. Look, the Kova house. It's empty. But I was pointing at darkness. The lights were off. The entire house was just another dark silhouette, indistinguishable from any other on the street. Zeno, what are you talking about? Noah groaned, her voice thick with sleep. They're asleep. It's the middle of the night. No, you don't understand. It was full of people, and then there was a flash, and then it was totally empty, I swear. I tried to force the binoculars into her hands, tried to make her see the absence of furniture through the black windows. She just sighed. You were probably dreaming on your feet again. We went back to bed. She was asleep in seconds. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling. The image of that silent, violent flash burned onto the back of my eyes. The next morning, I dropped Noah off at the clinic where she works. The first thing I did after was drive back to our street, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. In the clean light of day, it looked absurdly normal. A silver sedan I didn't recognize was parked in the Kova's driveway. Through their kitchen window, I could see two people, a man and a woman, moving around, pouring coffee. Life. It was all there. I did a slow U-turn at the end of the cul-de-sac, watching them in my rearview mirror. They didn't look up. They just kept moving with a strange, fluid grace, their conversation unheard. On impulse, I swung the car around again, driving even slower this time. Then I just started doing lazy donuts in the middle of the street, my tires crunching on stray gravel, my eyes locked on the house. They didn't react. Not a glance, not a flicker of curiosity. I stopped the car and gave the horn a short tap, then a longer one. Then I just laid on it, a blaring, obnoxious sound that should have had the whole neighborhood at their windows. Nothing. The couple in the kitchen continued their silent pantomime. I parked my car and got out. The air was still. I could hear birds chirping, a distant lawnmower. As I walked towards their driveway, I could suddenly hear them, faintly, the clink of a spoon against ceramic. A low murmur of conversation, too indistinct to understand. How could I hear that, but they couldn't hear my horn? Against every rational instinct, I walked up their stone path and knocked on the heavy front door. 3 loud, solid raps. I waited. A minute passed. I was about to turn away when I heard the sound of a bolt sliding. The door opened a crack, held by a thick brass chain. A man's face appeared in the gap. Mr. Kova. His eyes were flat, devoid of emotion. "You were told," he said. His voice was a monotone, a perfect, unaccented English that sounded computer-generated. "Not again." "I'm sorry," I stammered, taking a step back. "Told what?" "I just wanted to make sure everything was okay after last night. This is your final warning." He didn't blink. His face was a placid mask. "Leave." He slammed the door. The sound echoed in the quiet street. Shaken, I stumbled backward off the porch. My heel caught on something, and I lost my balance, pinwheeling my arms as I fell right towards the silver sedan parked in the driveway. I braced for the impact, for the crunch of metal and the searing pain in my shoulder. But there was nothing. I fell right through it. My body passed through the driver's side door like it was smoke, and I landed hard on the concrete driveway beneath. I sat there, stunned, my hips screaming in protest. The car was still there, gleaming, solid. I could see my own wide-eyed reflection in its polished door. I reached out a trembling hand, expecting to feel cold metal. My fingers went straight through the handle. I watched them disappear up to the wrist, moving through an illusion of steel and chrome. I swiped my other hand through the front tire. It was like waving my hand through a projection. Through the kitchen window, the couple was still there. They hadn't reacted to the door slamming, or to me falling, or to me sitting on their driveway looking like I'd just seen a ghost. They were on a loop, and their car wasn't real. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I didn't stop until I was locked safely inside my own house, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. That night, over a dinner I couldn't taste, I told Noah everything. I tried to keep my voice steady, to lay out the facts as I saw them. The empty house, the silent people, the phantom car. She listened patiently, her fork moving pasta around her plate. Noah's a therapist. She's trained to find the rational explanation, to pathologize the irrational. "So you think their house was replaced," she said, her tone carefully neutral. "I don't think, I know. Something is wearing our neighbor's house like a costume, Noah. And the people inside are part of it. We have to tell someone." She took a long sip of wine. "Zeno. Who are you gonna tell? That you fell through a hologram car after a man you've never spoken to gave you a cryptic warning. But it happened. I'm not crazy. I didn't say you were crazy," she said softly. "But you've been under a lot of stress at the firm. You haven't been sleeping well. Our minds can play powerful tricks on us when we're exhausted. This isn't a trick, Noah. I'll take you there right now. I'll show you. No." The word was sharp, final. "I don't want our neighbors thinking we're the neighborhood lunatics because my husband is having some kind of episode." She paused, her eyes softening a little. "Look, last month, 2 kids from the high school went exploring those old service tunnels under the city. One of them is still on a ventilator. Some things, Zeno, should be left well enough alone. Whatever this is, just let it go." I stared down at my plate. She thought I was hallucinating. Delusional. The person I trusted most in the world was drawing a line between my reality and hers, and she was standing firmly on the other side. I wasn't going to let it go. We watched some dumb sitcom before bed. It was our routine, a signal to our brains that the day was over. It worked for her. For me, my mind was a hornet's nest. Was I losing it? Did I hit my head when I fell? No. What I saw was real. What I needed was proof. Irrefutable proof. The thought hit me like a shot of adrenaline. A video. I could record my hand passing through the car. I could capture their non-reactions. Around 2 a.m, I slipped out of bed. I grabbed my good camera, the one I used for site photography, and pulled a dark hoodie over my head. The night was moonless, heavy and close. As I walked down the hill, I saw it. The Kovach house was lit up again. Inside, the same silent party was in full swing. I stayed in the shadows across the street, zooming in with my lens. The figures were all there, holding wine glasses, leaning against phantom furniture, their mouths moving without sound. I started recording. I crept closer, my heart thudding a nervous rhythm against my ribs. My plan was to get footage of the car. But as I reached the edge of their property, I saw the driveway was empty. No silver sedan, no cars at all. My stomach twisted. Was I remembering it wrong? I kept the camera recording, held low at my side. I needed to capture something. I stepped onto their lawn. I clapped my hands, a sharp, loud sound in the stillness. No one inside turned. I slapped the metal railing of their porch. A loud clang echoed through the night. Nothing. It was just like this morning. They were deaf and blind to the world outside their glass box. I should have left. I knew I should have turned around and gone home. But I vaulted the railing, landing silently in their manicured flower bed. I had to know what was inside. The backyard was an elaborate maze of trellises, bird baths, and a huge gnarled oak tree in the center. I filmed myself touching things. The rough bark of the tree, the cold stone of a bench, the waxy leaf of a rose bush. Everything felt solid, real. I peered through a back window. The party was still going, a silent, repeating loop of social grace. What was I looking for? I panned the camera around the yard, hunting for an anomaly. I circled the old oak tree. It was ancient, its branches like twisted arms reaching for the sky. I placed my hand on its trunk. It was warm, not just sun-warmed. It felt like it had a fever. The bark wasn't rough. It felt smooth, pliant, like freshly cured leather. On camera, I pressed a finger into the trunk. It gave way, leaving a perfect indentation. Before I could pull back, the tree attacked. Branches snaked down from above, impossibly fast. They weren't wood, they were something else. They wrapped around my throat, my chest, my arms, squeezing the air from my lungs. The camera fell from my grasp, its strap catching on my wrist, the lens now pointing at my feet. The tree lifted me off the ground. It dragged me across the lawn, my toes scraping against the grass. The back door of the mansion slid open on its own, revealing not a cozy living room, but a wall of pure white light. I was hauled inside. The branches released me, and I collapsed onto a floor that was also glowing white. The door sealed behind me, and the world resolved. I was in a room with no corners. The walls, ceiling, and floor were a seamless grid of white squares outlined in faint blue, stretching into an impossible distance. The light came from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. My camera was still on, dangling from my wrist. Figures emerged from the white expanse. The party guests. But they weren't people. They were smooth, featureless mannequins, their bodies the same flat white as the room. They moved with a silent, unnerving grace. "Please," I rasped, my voice echoing in the sterile void, "don't hurt me." A mannequin with the exact build of Mr. Kovan stepped forward, its blank face tilted. It didn't speak, it just raised one hand. The grid on the wall in front of me flickered. An image began to resolve, like a photograph developing. It was my own living room. The detail was perfect. The worn spot on the arm of the couch, the stack of magazines on the coffee table, the faint coffee ring I'd left there that morning. I scrambled away, but everywhere I looked, the walls were rendering my life. My kitchen, my office. My entire house recreated around me in this white void. It was a prison built from my own memories. I ran through the projection, my feet pounding on the glowing grid, until I reached the rendered image of my bedroom door. I threw it open. On the edge of my bed sat another white mannequin. It looked up as I entered, and as it did, its features began to resolve. Skin tone bloomed across its surface, hair sprouted from its scalp. Its pajamas flickered into existence. In half a second, it was Noah. She smiled at me. It was her smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were empty. "Zeno?" she asked, her voice a perfect imitation. "Is everything okay?" Then I was awake. Or I was back. I was in my own bed, the real one, tangled in my sheets, gasping for air. The sun was streaming through the window. Beside me, Noah stirred, then rolled over. "Bad dream?" she mumbled. I told her yes. For weeks, that's what I tried to believe. But it wasn't a dream. I lived in a quiet, simmering terror. I called in sick to work. I'd watch Noah move around our house, make breakfast, talk about her day. Was she real? Had she ever been? I'd look in the mirror, pulling at the skin on my face, half expecting it to peel away and reveal smooth, white plastic underneath. My camera sat on my desk, a black plastic bomb. For a month, I couldn't bring myself to touch it. The evidence was on that little SD card. The truth. Finally, one night when Noah was asleep, I took it into my office and closed the door. My hand shook as I pressed the play button. The footage was clear, me in the backyard, touching the tree. Then the world spinning as the branches grabbed me. The lens jostled, capturing terrifying glimpses of the white grid room, the silent mannequins. It recorded the walls rendering my home. It recorded the mannequin on the bed transforming into the woman I loved. My breath hitched. It was all there. It was real. But then, the footage glitched. The screen filled with static. For a single frame, the camera's view reversed. It was a selfie, reflected in a rendered window from the grid world. It showed the person holding the camera. It was me. But my face was a blank, smooth, white oval. Featureless. A scream caught in my throat. I ripped the SD card out of the camera, snapped it in half, and then I took a hammer to the camera itself until it was nothing but a pile of shattered plastic and glass. Months have passed. I went back to work. The deadlines, the meetings, the sheer mundane complexity of designing buildings for people, it's a comfort. It's a distraction. You need distractions to live. I even started writing again, getting all of this down. It helps to give it a structure, a narrative, a beginning, a middle, an end. I found the perfect title for it too. A phrase that keeps everything in its proper place. A phrase Noah gave me back when I thought she was still real. I repeat it to her sometimes, and she smiles that perfect empty smile. Some things should be left well enough alone, I tell her. They are words to live by. They have to be.